Welcome, everyone. Welcome, my friends. Thank you for joining us here at the Esteban Hour. If you woke up today, then it's a great day. How has your week been? And even more, how's your weekend going to turn out? Now, I know it's hot out there. I know it's very, very hot out there. In fact, over 100 million Americans are now under severe heat conditions. Um, Even Florida's water has been tested to be over 100 degrees. I pray that all of you have plenty of water. You have working air conditioners or fans, and you have a little love. Um, for yourself and for those around you, thinking of others in these severe conditions. Okay, I am so excited about today's program because we have a first timer on the Esteban Hour, an inspiring young man who is from the Midas Touch Network, and his name is Demetrius, also known as Coach D. Okay, he is there's they have over 1 million followers at this network, and what they do is they come out with current events. They talk about current events and breaking news, and they give true facts on reality. On what they're reporting, and we know we need more of that these days. They dissect the truth versus lies, and they do it very well, I may say, if I may say. So this gentleman, I call him a journalist, Coach D. He gives his truthful opinions on the topic at hand. In fact, let's play a clip of what he does. Roll that video.
Want to know from Chairman Jordan is he used to love Bill Barr. Chairman Jordan was thirsty for Bill Barr.
Bro, stop. You cannot say Chairman Jordan was thirsty for Bill Barr. Like, I don't ever want to hear a congressperson ever say that someone was thirsty for someone else. What's up, everyone? Coach D speaks here. But what Eric Swalwell does here is he points out this weird infatuation that these MAGAs have for Donald Trump, where it causes them to never see any fault in Donald Trump. Remember, just recently, Brett Baer had Donald Trump on, and he said, Mr. Trump, you say that, you only hire the best people. You only associate with the best people. But, here's this person who is running against you. Here's this person who says you're immature. Here's this person who says you're a narcissist. And Donald Trump, when, they're the best people until they speak out against him, and then suddenly they're compromised, or they're a part of the deep state, or they're a never Trumper, or they've always had it out for Trump, or they're sneaky and conniving. They're all these things, but at one point they were the best people, a part of Trump's cabinet and his entourage and all of that. But now they're the worst people in the world.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Amen to that. Introducing Mr. Coach D himself. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I like that clip too. That's one of my favorites right there.
That was awesome. You spoke nothing but the truth. I must have said that 1,000 times.
Yes,
1,000 times.
yes, man. I get. One thing I try to do with these videos is I try to play a video, say what I have to say, back what I have to say up with some more video. And I'm like you said in your intro, I'm always just trying to use just facts as much as I can. There's no hyperbole, there's no, exaggeration. I just try to come with facts when I make these videos.
Yes, and that's what's important, and that's what I love about these videos, and I know what the million followers that Midas Touch loves about these videos, bringing out the facts, trying to make it clear to those out there who understand the facts and those who don't want to understand, but need constant reminders that this is how it is. And the point that you brought out there is a point that's just been screaming to be made, because there's just so much ignorance going around that you can't figure out how the hell people think the way that they think. Some people think the way that they think.
Yeah, okay. The infatuation is crazy. It is.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to start out with how you started with the Midas Touch network. What's your tell us about your background.
So it's funny. So if you go back to my TikTok videos, what you will see when I started TikTok, I'm a college professor and a track and field and cross country coach by trade. Right,
Nice,
that's what I do.
nice.
My athletes talked me into doing TikTok because I'd been putting some videos of my family on Instagram, and they were like, "Hey, coach, those videos that you do are pretty cool. You should do it on TikTok." No idea what TikTok was. They talked me into doing it. I started doing TikToks. Dance videos with my wife and my two daughters and stuff. So
Oh
if you
wow!
go deep,
Awesome,
yes, if you
awesome.
go deep into the TikTok vault, you are going to see some stuff. You're gonna be like, oh snap, Coach D, because it was just that, right? Well, then the George Floyd thing happened. So I made a video where I just basically stood in my backyard and I said, listen, if me and another guy went and grabbed someone and we held them down for 10 minutes with our neck, with our knee in their neck, and that man became deceased, me and that person would be in prison right now.
Right,
Why are those police officers not in prison?
right,
So I had that question, and I said a couple other things in the video, and that video blew up and it went viral, right? And so then people started saying, I was getting comments from people saying, "Hey, we'd love to hear your opinion on some of these other issues, within the Black community, within, some just speak out on social justice things, right?" So I did. I started doing those videos. It was probably a year and a half down. I think I started. I would put a couple videos on my regular Instagram, and then it just was like it was weird because you guys probably went through this as well during COVID and George Floyd. People started to kind of like expose themselves and everything, and so you started
yes,
to find out that like some of your family members had these views, and so it was a little uncomfortable like putting myself out there, but I was also a Black man in a community that's very, very conservative. I grew up here, but I was kind of a star athlete. I was a good dude. And so I felt like the people who may be on the other side of this, they had to listen to me because I was someone that they respected within this community. So Midas Touch reached out to me basically and said, "Hey, we really like your videos. Would you like to start doing videos for us?" And I said, I actually had a friend who saw them comment on one of my videos and asked me to give them a reach out to them. And typically when people comment on my videos and say, "Hey, send us a DM," I just ignore it, because it's usually like a scam or something or whatever. But my
right,
friend called me and he said, "Hey, I have a girl that I worked with who was doing some stuff for the Midas Touch Network. Maybe you should reach out to her, see what she thought about it and all that." So I did, I reached out to him, talked to her a little bit, and decided, yeah, I want to do this. So I want to start doing these videos for them. And so it's just basically like, one of those things where I make a video, I send it to them. They choose to post that video or not. It's hit and miss with the videos. I've had videos on their page that's gotten anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million views.
right.
I've had videos on their page that's only got 35,000 views. But it's been a good relationship. What I did like about them is I felt like they were real. I felt like they were doing it for the good of the people. Like they actually they had the same goals that I had in mind, and so that's why I decided to partner with them.
Excellent, excellent, awesome. So
Mhm,
I wanna go back to one of the things that you had mentioned.
mhm,
Um, you talked about having family
mhm.
on the opposite end of the aisle. How did that work out for you? What how did you handle that?
Honestly, there are some people that I cut ties with. It just wasn't worth it to me. Like, if you show yourself to be a bigot, a racist, like I'm not here to fight that battle. Like you're
Right,
too far ahead. You need to do some of the work yourself
right,
and get closer to where I am. So with some people, we just had to cut ties with them. And it's cool. My wife and I are like my wife is she's she's got my back, and so we with some people it's just like, what, we can't have them in our lives. With some of them, um people reached out to me, and you could tell that they were interested in kind of hearing, my side of things and wanting to know, I think when because you got to understand too, and I don't know your guys's, life as much, but I'm a pretty successful guy in my community. Not only like I've been like the people who have some of these beliefs, I was their kids' coach, so you've trusted this black man with
Right.
your children, as your teacher. I've been a professor for 18 years. My wife is a fifth grade teacher. My community has trusted my family. So you can't do that and then not listen to the person. Like you can't think, you have to think, listen, I know this dude. I know Demetrius. Demetrius was an upstanding dude. Like this dude went from, being in a single mother home to like going to college and getting his master's degree and running at the Olympic trials and all that. Like you have to at least go, you know what? Let me listen to this dude. You know what I'm saying? So like I think that's what made them decide, okay, let me reach out and listen. And so I feel like some people kind of came across a little bit. And it's not, for me, it wasn't to change their political views. When you look at, politics are politics, right? But these aren't politics. Like, I'm not trying to change your political views. I'm trying to have you humanize my people. You know what I'm saying? And I think you look at some of this stuff and it's like you're not looking at this person as a human. Like, it's just, and so that type of,
And that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Overall, humanizing people, because
Mhm.
there are some folks on one side of the aisle that refuses to see all human beings as equal.
Mhm.
And we are, because there's everything the same about us all except for the color of our skin or
Yeah.
our culture or our religion.
Mhm. And that's the part that was always tough for me. I actually had um, a family member, so in-laws, my wife's family, someone, which is funny because this was pre the stuff you have going on in Florida right now. But someone said, "Well, how do you know that some slaves didn't like their slave owners?" Or some of their slave owners weren't good people. I said, listen, by definition, you can't be a slave owner and a good person. Like a good person doesn't own slaves. They let those slaves go free,
Right.
And so, and then they said something like, well, a lot of the slaves went back to their slave owners after they were free. And I said, see, this is where history has failed people, because what you don't understand is, Jim Crow laws and stuff. Like they had to go. There were laws that said if you didn't have a job, you would be arrested and re-enslaved. So they said, oh, I could either go back to this plantation where I know the people, or I could be arrested and I get nothing out of it. So of course some of them went back. It wasn't because they were like, oh, I enjoyed that experience so much. I could be free right now, but instead I want to be a slave. No, And so I've had to educate so many people in my community about some of this. And some of them don't want to hear it. There's some people, they don't want to hear it. They, oh, you're woke or whatever, whatever,
And that's
But
okay.
yeah,
That's okay. If you've reached just one person, you've done your
mhm,
job, right?
yeah,
You've done your
absolutely,
job. I will
absolutely.
say that we share a couple of similarities.
Hmm.
I as well am a college graduate.
Hmm.
I did not go as far as masters, but I did go to school, and I was raised in the ghetto, as they say, poor,
Hmm. Hmm.
from a single parent household. My mom. I have three sisters: an older sister, a twin sister, and a younger sister. And I as well have two daughters.
Nice, nice. How old are they?
Out.
Not to
Uh,
jump out too early, but
20 and 16.
oh, okay, okay. Nice. Mine are 22 and 18.
Look at that.
Yeah, yeah, it's dope, man.
Look at
It's,
that.
it's yeah.
Awesome. 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 Okay. All right. I love it already. Okay. So, what would you tell since we just spoke about
Hmm.
our past,
Hmm.
what would you tell your 16-year-old self right now?
Man, I I probably like I personally feel pretty good about where I am in life for the most part. I would probably tell my 16-year-old self one thing I think I did at that in that age was just try to like fit in, and I grew up again very conservative, very white, community, and I feel like I put up with a little bit of subtle racism. And one thing I taught my daughters was like, listen, you never, not even a little bit, put up with anything. If you think someone said something out of pocket, or you think someone's being racist or bigoted, you speak up for yourself straight up. So I would tell my 16-year-old self, you don't need to fit in with these people. You need to let them know exactly how you feel. And it wouldn't have surprised them as much today, knowing, or seeing the things that I talk about now. But that's what I would have told myself, to just, be straight with people all the time. Don't just, because believe it or not, I considered myself a conservative up until about 25, even 30. I would say a fiscal conservative. And my like understanding of fiscal conservatism wasn't what it is now. I still consider myself a fiscal responsible person. I can't use the term conservative at all, though. But I would call myself fiscally responsible, and so yeah, like I think just like speaking out against like subtle racism, subtle bigotry, subtle homophobia. I would have told my 16-year-old self, don't put up with that stuff.
And I agree with you on that, on the stanza of not perhaps not being able to call yourself a conservative.
Mhm.
I I always thought of myself as an independent. I
Mhm.
still do today.
Mhm.
I don't choose Democrats over Republicans, Republicans over Democrats. What I choose is equality
Mhm.
and humanity, right? And
Mhm.
democracy. That is what I choose. And whoever is going for that, that's who I
That's the
will
guy.
go for.
Yeah, I got you. I'm with that.
And okay. So another question.
Mhm.
Back in school, what were you considered? What was your label? Were you a bully? Were you a nerd? Were you a ladies man, popular? How would you describe yourself?
I think everyone would say I was popular. I actually didn't know that until later in life, when I would talk to someone and they would be like, "Oh, that's because you were popular," and I wasn't popular. I was an athlete. I was a state champion from a small town. I played football. I ran track. I did a lot of that. So I would say I was just an athlete. Um, I don't, I mean, I was a young athlete, so I had my time with being trying to be a ladies' man and all that type of stuff and everything too. But one thing I think everybody would say about me, even today, no matter what, no matter who you run into that I went to high school with, is that I was always a respectful stand-up dude. Like my teachers maybe thought I was a little bit hard-headed sometimes, and maybe didn't like, obviously I was going through a lot. I moved from New Orleans, Louisiana, to a small town in California. So there was a huge like, just cultural, just, it was just cultural shock for me. So some of that was causing me to be kind of a knucklehead. So I think some of my teachers might say, like, they might be a little bit, maybe not surprised where I am today, but like, just like, wow, Demetrius, you did your thing or whatever, right? But for the most part, everyone would say, you were always respectful, and whatever. You just sometimes maybe slipped on your grades a little bit here and there, but I was also always smart. My wife was, one of the smartest people in our school and everything. And when we started dating in high school, and she would say all the time, like, I'm getting straight A's and you're smarter than me, and you're not, because you're just worried about running track and hanging out and stuff. So when I got that together in college, yeah, school was easy for me. So I would say I was probably a nerd in like graduate school, when everyone else probably, but in high school, yeah, far from it. My daughters are nerds though. They both were nerds, man.
Nice, nice, nice. I can't tell you not one thing I learned in high school, because I as well was a popular person, and I just had that knack of picking up stuff that I didn't
Mhm.
necessarily have to study for, and I was okay with getting a C or a D as long as I
Absolutely.
passed. And that's exactly what happened. I was allowed to live my life as a high schooler, but
Mhm.
the popularity was more important to me than the schooling. But I passed every class,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I didn't get serious until college when I realized, okay,
Yeah.
now is the time.
I'm with you, man.
All right, all right. Okay. So you had talked earlier about you brought up the situation with George Floyd.
Mhm.
And one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, what is your opinion or stand on police brutality? You saw what just recently just happened with the young black man driving a truck, being pulled over unarmed, and gave himself up with no issue, no problem, and still had a dog attack
Like
him.
do something. Yeah.
Um, what is your stand on police brutality?
So this is a hard one. So that was one of the things too, is I have a lot of law enforcement in my family. So my sister was a police officer. Her husband, so my sister is no longer a police officer. She walked away from the position, but her husband is still a police officer. Great dude. We've had some good heated conversation about that. My thing is this, like we, the opinion used to be we need more black people in the black community policing the community. And then we found that black cops, they misuse their authority as well. And so then, so my belief is this: we need, first of all, we need to do as much as we can to decrease the interactions between the community and police department. So what I'm saying is, like, there's going to be less interactions between police and the community if you have outreach for the community. Like, we need kids to have things that they can go to. They need community events. They need community centers. They need just, we need to flood communities, especially our most vulnerable communities, with as much resources as possible. Like, I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I try to tell people this all the time. My neighborhood where I live now, like, I understand what privilege means because my daughters have been afforded privilege that I never was afforded in the neighborhood I grew up in. Like, we had corner stores, and in those corner stores there was cigarettes, candy, bad food, all of that. I can't tell you where there was a good, like, a good industry to get into work in my community either.
Right.
So the first thing we need to do is we need to limit interaction. Once we do that, we need to make sure that our police department is highly trained but highly held accountable. Like, I'm talking, the only way you're going to, like, bridge this gap that you have between the community and policing is by showing the community that when they step out of line, they're
Yes.
done. We're
Yes.
taking this seriously. And so, police brutality to me is wrong. It's horrible. And I talk to my brother-in-law all the time, like, bro, like, if you do something like this, believe me, like, I'm going to be the first person calling you out on it. Like, I'm not going to have you back. I'm just letting you know for sure. I think the police, I think this whole, the thin blue line and all that, like, we need to scratch that. Like, police officers, police, it's funny that the police department will always say, like, how the black community has this no snitch policy, and it's bad because, like, if they're not letting the police department know, how can they take care of the crime? You guys are doing the same thing, though. The police department is doing that
Totally.
exact same thing. And until you
Totally.
lead by example, you know what I'm saying? Like, and dude, I know this because, like, I've been a professor for years. If a kid comes to me with a concern, I address the concern as fast as I can. If that concern is with another professor, I don't take that professor's side. I don't take a side at all. I try to, let's do a fact finding mission, or whatever. So I think that that's my biggest thing.
That
Interaction between.
brotherhood, that brotherhood
Mhm.
needs to be cracked. That
Yes.
blue brotherhood, right?
Absolutely. We've seen way too often where, someone in the police department gets caught for something, and then you go back to, like, their text messages, their emails, and all that. And it's like, oh, There were multiple police officers who knew about this, were complicit in it. Like, that needs to end. And they can say what they want, but like the black community, like I grew up in New Orleans, like in the early 90s. I didn't get in a lot of trouble. I'm sorry, the late 80s. We moved here before I was able to get into too many things. But my older brother, he was, he was a drug dealer in New Orleans. Um, but there were times when he said, cops would come up, grab him, put him in the car, not take him to jail, just take him to like one of the bridges and take him under a bridge and just beat the hell out of him. Like that to me is like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you guys, you will not gain the community's trust until you show the community that you are trustworthy, that you should be, that you are worthy of trust, because you just can't have that. So I think, one, the police department needs to become a department that can be trusted, and two, we need to find ways to decrease interaction between police and the community. Like, your interaction with police should be a lot more positive, and right now it seems to be negative. Like, the average black kid, when I was growing up in New Orleans, if we were walking down the street and a police was driving by, we would run and hide, even though we hadn't done anything.
Right.
That was just a thing. You just hid when you saw the police, for what it was just ingrained in us, that like, hey, those are your enemies, and that shouldn't be it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. I agree with everything that you just said. I'll give a brief personal story of um, uh, what you had mentioned. I think you said with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
I had moved from the Bronx to Westchester, and I knew all about how police acted or reacted in the Bronx. I didn't know how they were in Westchester. The second or third night of being a new resident of Westchester, New York, I was walking up the block, trying to get familiar with my surroundings, and I started hearing some screams. And I was like, "What's that? What's that?" And it wasn't a woman screaming; it was a man's voice screaming. And so I was being a little nosy, and followed the screams. And I noticed across the street from me there was a alleyway, a garbage alleyway from a building, and this black boy was being beat up by the police. I could not believe it. Again, I've known about police brutality. I've seen it in my neighborhood growing up. I never witnessed it head on like that. Those stories were just heard of. I couldn't believe that is actually what's happening. And I went on to see it another once or twice even after that. And it started to give me uh, um, it opened my eyes to a lot more that's going on in regards to police brutality that I didn't know as a young man. And it was
Yeah,
really,
that's
really sad. I don't know what the guy did, because
mm-hmm.
some of them will say, well, he deserved it. Arguably, you could say yes or no. I don't know what he did, but just for that circumstance, it was just sad to see and to hear.
I did a video one time, and they were pulling out these kids in from a house, right? And so they had this guy, and he's just walking. He's in handcuffs. He's got his hand behind his back, and he's being escorted out of the house. He's not doing anything. As he's being escorted out of the house, one of the cops hauls off and punches him, right? Knocks him out. Like the guy goes, "Oh my gosh, my face," and all this. Young black kid. And people in my comments were saying, "Do you know what the guy did?" And I said, "Listen, it doesn't matter. I don't care if he did the worst thing in the world. And believe me, I am a human. So if you ask me, well, what would you do if someone did that to your daughter? I would say I'd probably try to kill them. But I'm also not a police officer, and I know that even though I would do that, I know it's wrong. And so my thing with people is always, I don't care what they did, because they're still supposed to be afforded due process. And as bad as what they've done could be, if we start allowing police officers to just have vigilante justice, when do we get to a point where now they're doing things to people who weren't guilty? So you can't really just say, oh, that guy did all this bad stuff. Allow the justice system to run its course. The Constitution says that you're supposed to be afforded due process. You're afforded due process. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they do. And again, when people say, oh, you wouldn't want to punch someone, absolutely I would. But
Right.
those guys who do that should turn their badge in because they're not fit for that job.
Right. That shouldn't be part of a police officer's alma mater, so
Nope,
to speak.
not at all.
And even more than that, how is that behavior towards the community, black or white? How is that supposed to teach everyone not to hate the cops or not to brutalize the police back? Brutalize them back or disrespect them, whatever the
Mhm.
case may be. How does that teach young men and women growing up to always hold and maintain respect for those in blue when they're going around doing things like
Yeah,
that and then lying about it and then saying no, they didn't do that, while
yeah,
the black kid is telling his mama, ma, look at my face, look what happened to me, the cop did it, and the cop is telling the mother, no, your son is a liar, and you gotta know he's a liar because he was just arrested on blah 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 blah, which one thing has nothing to do with the other.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So now, with that said, moving on to the Supreme Court.
Hmm.
How do you feel? You're married, you've
Hmm.
got two daughters, you were raised up by your mom. How do you feel, or how did you feel when women lost a little bit of their rights a year ago and Roe versus Wade was overturned?
Yeah, it's crazy to me that we live in a society where the like Republicans always say like keep the government out of my bedroom and keep the government out of my tax dollars and keep the government out of this and that, and then they literally vote for big government all the time.
Yes.
The
Yes.
fact that you've taken away the right for a woman and her doctor to have a conversation, a serious conversation that, one thing I hate when people say, oh, they're using it as birth control. Listen, I've dealt with students and athletes who've had to make these decisions. I've never heard one of them say, can't wait to go get this abortion. Can't wait to just get rid of, you know what I'm saying? Like, never. It's always
Yes.
been, Coach D, can I talk
Yes.
to you about something? I don't know what to do. Can't talk to my parents. I'm not sure. These are like, so you took away that right for a woman to be able to say, you know what? Like, whatever reason, like, I don't even care what the reason might be. For whatever reason that this expecting mother needs to talk to her doctor and make this gosh dang important decision, you're taking that right away from her.
Right.
I can't understand how we live in a country that does that, and then say how free we are. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like talk about our exceptionalism and how free we are and everything. And so to me it's horrible. I wish, and man, when you think about it though, it goes back to, it really goes back to like people deciding to stay home and not vote for Hillary Clinton.
Uh,
It does. I mean, and like, and I am a hard line, like don't just toe the line, don't just Democrat all the way down and all of that. But man, when like even Hillary Clinton and people on the left were saying, you guys got to understand, some of these Supreme Court justices are getting older. If this guy gets in there, he is going to be able to make two, maybe three choices. And now we have a Supreme Court that now for decades can make these decisions that take away rights of people. And like, you know, whatever anybody's, views on religion is, I don't want to be governed by a theology at
right.
all. And we have a party that in a way seems to think that that's the right way to do things, and now they have a Supreme Court that believes that as well. And so now they're making decisions based off a Bible that everyone doesn't believe in. I don't like it at
every
all.
every point that you give, I'm saying in my head, can he get out of my head? Can he get out of my head? Because I have thought and said the exact same things. Now, first of
Mhm.
all, when it comes to the government, get out of the government needs to get out of our private affairs. I say that almost every day, almost every day. One side wants government out of our lives, but only for the things that they want government to be out of.
Yep.
So someone wants an abortion, no, it's okay for the government to come in to her life and stop that. Or someone wants something, wants to do something else that they don't like, no, it's okay. You can't have it both ways. You cannot
Yeah.
have it both ways. And then in regards to Hillary Clinton, I've been saying that for years. I was one of those who that night was a horrible night, horrible,
Mhm. Mhm.
depressing. You're angry, frustrated, crying, all the adjectives.
Mhm.
Um, but since then, I'm like, is what we've been going through, is it worth it? Was it worth it? Was it
Mhm.
worth your hatred for this lady, or you didn't want a woman, whatever the fact was? Is what we've gotten or what we have right now worth that? Because I'm like, no, it's not. Okay.
Mhm.
Supreme Court, if Hillary was in office, we wouldn't, the Supreme Court wouldn't be that way at all. At all.
Mhm.
And in fact, I don't even believe it would be a super Democratic majority, because I believe the Democrats are not like that. They would want to keep the majority, but um, they
They
wouldn't.
understand the need for the balance.
Yes, they would
Mhm.
not be okay with a 6-3, a
Yeah.
5-4. Yes, not a 6-3. So I'm like, okay, now we're about to go into 2024, and we're just about facing the same thing. So you didn't remember? Did you forget about what happened with Hillary Clinton? Now we
Mhm.
have President Biden. A lot of people arguably don't want him to run. I'm one of those, that feels that anyone over a certain age should just retire and give the realm, pass the baton to someone else. But in the event if that doesn't happen, are you seriously going to sit home and sulk like you did with Hillary Clinton? Have you not learned anything? That's what goes on in my head every
I
day.
agree. I don't think people think they don't think on that large scale enough.
Yes,
They
yes.
weren't thinking about that, like we
Outside the
have.
box.
Yes, and it really, what bothered me too, though. It also bothered me. It bothers me so much that some of these Supreme Court justices who were leftists, like, took the chance as well, because like they stay in too long as well. I mean, I almost believe we
Yes,
need term limits for them as well.
absolutely.
I love Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but gosh, what I don't know how old she was when she was in there. But like you said, my mom is 73 years old, and she is very intelligent, coherent. She does her thing. But if she said I want to run for office, I'd be like, "Ma, nah, bro, you're 73." But for some reason in this country, we've encouraged that. I mean,
Yes,
you look at what happened to Mitch McConnell the other day. For how many years have we watched him and thought this guy is too old to be doing this?
yes,
And like I'm with you. I wish I was hoping that the Democrats had elevated someone, Akeem, Cory Booker, even Kamala. There's some good Democrats out there that I thought, let's start to like move them up so
yes,
that way we can have a viable candidate. So we're not trying to run,
yes.
Joe Biden again. But I mean, hey,
And
I don't want to bash Joe Biden. I think here's what I think about him. I think his policies have been great. I think some of the things, the legislation that he's gotten through, I think has been great. It is hard for me as a 48-year-old man who can speak well, who can speak into a camera for multiple minutes. You could ask me a question, I could go off the fly. Sometimes it's hard to watch not just him, but many of these 70, 80-year-old,
it's true.
politicians try and do that. It's just I wish we would start to push our younger 50, low 50, mid 50 types, who are very like I look at Akeem Jeffries and I'm like, why would you not? Like you've done some things, man. I look at, Cory Booker has said some good things. There's just a lot of people in there that, that. So hopefully, after this time around, we start to do that on both sides,
I hope
honestly.
so too.
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries can very well much be maybe our next Speaker of the House
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
2025. So that might be that might be a sight to see. Also, you had I wanted to point out that another similarity. You said your mother was 73 years old. So was mine.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. My mom is awesome, man. She's traveling right now. She lives with me, but she has basically a bedroom here. She has a bedroom at my
Nice,
brother's, my
nice.
sister's, but she just travels most of the time, man. So she's in New Orleans.
Good
She's
for
in
her.
Louisiana.
Good for
Yeah,
her.
yeah. Love
My
it, man.
mother still is always a mom and still treats us like we're 20
Yeah,
years old.
yeah,
So when she comes over, it's always about what I'm doing wrong and how I'm bringing up the kids and don't do this, don't do that. Goes in the
yeah,
kitchen and cleaning and touching everything. I didn't ask you to do that.
yeah, yeah.
But knock yourself out.
Yeah, my mom. Sometimes I have to remind her, like, hey, this is my house.
Yes,
You're
yes,
living here, like, but I love her, man. She's
yes.
awesome. She's awesome. She's good people.
All right. All right. Um, okay, so moving on. Um, are you involved in any form of activism? And if you are, what would they be?
Yeah, so I'm in this group in my area, a group of kind of professionals who are just about like doing whatever we can, excuse me, we can for the community. It's called Commonwealth. And what my part is right now is I'm going to try to implement this Dads on Duty. A few years ago during COVID, I saw a video about it where they employed these dads to like give up about 2 hours of their time to go into schools and just be like monitors and stuff, but it's all
Right.
like they're all just volunteering, so my thing is to try to get that in the community where I teach, is to bring dads of color, white dads, whatever, that want to spend a couple hours of their time in some of these schools that need a little bit more help with monitoring and stuff like that. It seemed to be very, very successful what I saw about it. Actually, the news story I saw itself said something like the year before there was like 50 fights at the school. That year so far, there had only been one. And they said because the dads are like, "Yo, get to class, hey, I see you, man. Pull your pants up, just cool dads hanging out at the school, five at a time or whatever, walking the halls, talking to kids, making sure." And like so that's something that's like my project that I'm trying to do. Other than that, my activism obviously comes through the videos that I do. I'm a coach. I'm a teacher. I volunteer at a gym where I train kids who maybe don't have the means to pay a trainer and stuff like that. That's my part. I feel like in giving back, and so that's what I do for the most part. Yeah.
As a young man yourself, because
Hmm.
48 is young, is still young.
Hmm.
What advice, guidance, or encouragement would you give to younger Black men who either don't have any children yet
Hmm.
or have babies? What
Hmm.
advice, as a father, would you give to them?
Man, I take being a father as like the best job thing I could ever have done. Like I
Yes.
remember when my wife said she was pregnant, I was like, bro, I cannot wait. Like I want to be like the best dad ever. I would tell them like your children, they're everything. I'm the head coach at a school, and one of my assistants one time came to me. He's like, "Hey, is it okay if I take Friday off? Wanted to take the wife and the kid to the beach and blah blah." I said, "Listen, man, don't ever ask me if you can spend time with your family. Just kind of let me know, hey, I'm gonna take," because for me, that is everything. Like my daughters, man, I mean, 22 and 18. So I am a very I'm competitive. So I remember telling my wife, like, they're gonna be the fastest girls, the smartest girls, this, that, like literally to the point where like I'd go to their school, like do PE, and I'd be like, everybody's gonna line up and race. And I'd just be looking at my daughter like, you better win this, and stuff and
Yes.
everything. So like I've literally raised they're awesome, man. They're straight A students, both Division 1 athletes. Just I took that as like this is like, so for me being a dad, it's everything. I would tell anyone who is about to have a child, just you need to know something, especially if you have daughters. I knew I was going to be the most constant man in their life. Anytime I've ever had girls on my team who were like just seem to be solid human beings and stuff, I would always ask them, man, you get good grades, you seem to be solid, you carry yourself well. Like, why do you feel that is? And they would always say to me, my dad. My dad was like, that was the dude to me. And so that's been me. Like, you will not, I mean, man, like you can literally, if you came to my town and asked people like, what do you think about Demetrius? They'd be like, that dude is a dad right there, because I was the guy volunteering at everything. You know, I volunteered I was the PE teacher for their class all the time. I used to own the business where I put on mud runs and stuff. I set up the mud run at their school. Like, I was always around, to the point where sometimes my daughters, their friends in their class, because they're really good athletes also, you know, and their friends in their class would be surprised when they like eat candy and stuff. They'd be like, your dad lets you do that? And they're like, yeah, you know, that's the thing too. Like, people probably think I'm this like, oh, iron fist type of dad. I'm literally just a freaking big old teddy bear. Like, my daughters kind of could get away with stuff if they were that type of kid, but our relationship was just always pretty solid. Not, you know, they went through their teenage years and we definitely bumped heads and all that, but
I know what you mean.
my daughter just graduated. So one of my daughters just graduated and she's going into graduate school, and she had to write this letter to the most influential person in her life. And she wrote it to me. And it was awesome. And I mean, if we had time, I could tell you so much about her, because my daughter is like an activist. Like, she's going to do some stuff. She's actually going to be in Washington, D.C. pretty soon here for this internship that she's doing. But she thinks like I'm not like active enough sometimes. Like, so
Right.
part of her letter was like, you're the greatest person, but I need you to do more in the community.
Right.
You know, so it was like I love you, but I still need more type of thing.
That's
But
awesome.
it was a beautiful letter. Man, it really kind of choked me up, because I was just like, all the work I put in all these years, like, she basically was like saying like, you did a great job, you know, you did a great job and I appreciate you and everything. And so that was cool.
Awesome. Awesome. I definitely could relate with you on a lot of that. I used to, growing up with my daughters, I used to think that, you know, when they became adults, that I would be alone. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't need me anymore. That maybe my son wouldn't do that. But my daughters, I've learned I love my daughters. I love having daughters. They gave me hell during their teenage years, though. But I love my daughters. I love having a daughter who looks up to me, especially growing from a single parent family. My sisters, even today, say that they longed to have that male role model in their lives. And there are deficiencies in their lives that they admit to, because they didn't have that male figure in their life. And it is a blessing for me, for us, to be that figure, that male role model in our daughters' lives, to mold them and instruct them, and also to let them know that they don't have to take crap from anybody, from
Mm-hmm.
a job, from an employer, to a man. They don't have to take it.
I couldn't agree more, man. I could not agree more. I feel like that was my biggest thing, was like, I'm gonna raise daughters who are going to like demand respect. Like, that was the biggest thing. Like, they're gonna demand respect. They're gonna enter a room and people are gonna know like, oh dang, you know, Taylor showed up or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I couldn't agree more with you.
Okay. One of our last serious questions that I
Mm-hmm.
want to get your opinion on is on the subject matter of depression.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you ever experienced any form of depression or anxiety as a successful
Mm-hmm.
person?
So it's funny, man. I always considered myself a very laid back dude. Like, my athletes, they're funny because like they have like, I walk into a room or into practice the first time and they look at me and they're like, oh, this dude is like still in shape. You know, I always wear my shades. You see my videos and stuff. I'm always wearing my shades. So they're like, I can't see your eyes. You look all tough and everything. And I'm not, you know. So I don't know what you guys know about track and field, but 4x1 baton passes and all that.
Yes.
Dropping the baton is a big deal. So, but I'm a believer in, like, you have amnesia when you make a mistake, you got to move on. So my girls dropped the baton one time and they're walking up to me really afraid. You could tell they're like, oh dang, he's gonna get on us. And I just look at them and I say, well, that happened. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna move on because you guys got other events to do and stuff like that. So I've always been laid back, but I'll tell you this, man, I am a people person. I love being a professor and a coach because I need to be around people. That's what keeps me going. During COVID, that was hard for me. I was sitting at this computer like I am now, and I was doing Zoom meetings with my team, and I couldn't be with them. And believe me, like the pandemic and everything was real to me, but it was also hard because, like, I'm used to being around people. And I remember telling my wife, like, this is the first time I've felt like this. My wife is an introvert. She's like, I could do this all day, but I was running around crazy. So me being a person who's not even a handsy person, I was doing projects around the house that, like, I don't do that stuff, So I did. During that time, I went through it. And that was the first time I really feel like I understood, like, depression, anxiety, and all of that, because I've always been really laid back, really low key, nothing really bothered me. But during COVID, not being able to, like, interact with people the way I'm used to interacting with people, that took a lot out of me for sure.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay. So let's get into some of the fun and games here. Tell us what kind of music do you listen to?
Man, it's crazy because when I say what I listen to, people are like, "Man, you listen." I listen to everything. I mean, I'm a hip hop guy. Like my number one album would be like Tupac, All Eyes on Me, and here's why: I bought that album, and then I drove to college. When I left for college, I drove. I went to Fresno State, which was 2 hours away from where I live. So during that drive, I listened to it. If I listen to any song on that album right now, it just brings me back to college. That's my number one.
Right.
I'm a Stevie Wonder guy, Michael Jackson, Bell Biv DeVoe, Boys to Men. Bro, I'm an NSYNC dude. Like, I listen to like I like boy bands, dude. I could listen to NSYNC, O Town, like just those. Like today for my practice, I was playing Bye Bye Bye, and I was doing the dance and stuff. And my team was like, "Look at Coach, bro!" Like, I could listen to Rod Stewart. I could listen to,
like, one of my friends puts it, grown folk music.
Yes, yeah. I'm like Stone Temple Pilots. I could listen to Guns N' Roses. I mean, I grew up a black dude in an all white area, so I had the hip hop side, I had the rock side. But like, if you say like what's on my playlist, man, it's a lot of like 90s, 2000 hip hop type of stuff. Like, I'm a Will Smith fan too, Usher. I mean, yeah, yeah, you throw me back with like the Jodeci time and all that, like I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying?
Bringing it back. All right.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are your 3 favorite movies?
Man, so this is crazy. So a movie that I used to watch all the time, like I could watch it all the time, was, because I'm a comedy dude, was Ace Ventura: Pet Detective with Jim Carrey. Like, stupid, right? Like, I mean, like,
I love that movie.
Yeah, if I park my car right now, I literally go like a glove. Like, that's what I do, man. It's like, my wife, if I'm like, if someone does something stupid, I'm like, like, it's dumb. I don't even know how that movie became. So that's one. Gosh, what is it? Oh man, Juice, with Tupac and Omar Epps and back in the day. And then the other one with Omar Epps, the college one with the racist. I'm gonna remember it. I'll remember it. But it was Omar Epps. He went away to college, and it was the white supremacist dudes there too, and he was a football player. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. But those are my 3 favorite movies.
Okay, awesome. What's the best concert you've been to?
Man, first I would have said back in the day I went to LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, and Run DMC, which was great. Then a few years ago, my wife got us tickets to gosh, dude, I'm so bad with names. What's his name? Uptown Funk. I'm so bad. He's good. He's good.
I got
So
you. It's at the tip
yeah,
of
yeah,
my.
yeah. Him, and then but then I would say, man, if I had to think of like who brought the most energy, because I'm an energy dude, Busta Rhymes. So it would be a toss up between those three. It would be a toss up. But the first time going to that LL Cool J Beastie Boys, I was like, dude, it was my first concert, so I
That
didn't
must
know how
have been
good
out of
concerts
this
were.
world.
Oh, that was legit, man, legit. Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right, all right. Okay. So last question before we flip the screen. Define your future.
Man, I'm looking forward to, like, reluctantly looking forward to the next chapter of my life. Like, both of my daughters are moving on to things. They've been, for the last 22 years, that's been everything to me. Like, everything I was doing was like, I want to be where they are. I want to go to their games, their track meets, their school, whatever. So my wife and I, we're starting to fill this empty nester thing, you know. So like my 18-year-old daughter, she's on her way to college, and this summer she's been becoming a little more independent. So we've been finding that we're at the house and it's just us. So we're trying to do some other things. So my future is going to be trying to like grow more in this space of like doing these videos, getting myself out there, doing that. You know, retirement as a professor, that's going to come around in the next 5 or so years. And then just like growing with my wife, man. We want to start golfing more. We want to start traveling more. Watching my daughters, they're both, one of them has another year of track and field. The other one still has 4 years of track and field in college. And my second daughter, and both of them have a good chance of, you know, the Olympic trials and all that. So watching that'll be cool. But yeah, just trying to grow more in this space, trying to be a little bit more active in the community, you know, make my daughter more proud of me about being a little bit more active in the community. And just you know, 18 years of or 22 years basically of coaching and teaching has really taught me that like I've made an impact. So I want to keep on doing that. I want to keep being a role model for people, and then just making my wife and you know my wife happy, and hopefully some grandkids at some point.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah,
Yes, at some point, not
yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah. Not yet, not yet, not yet. I made it to
But I
48
tell
without
my
being a
daughter.
granddad.
Awesome, awesome. Right, right.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I loved your answers to my questions. Now let's flip it. You've
Yep.
got 5 questions for me. I
Hmm.
will do my best to answer them as quickly as possible.
Okay. Number one, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
um that life is hard. Life is not the way that he saw it at that time.
Hmm.
When I was 16 years old, I tell you, half of what's going on right now, especially politically, I didn't know. Neither was I interested. In fact, I even kid with my mom at times nowadays, and I say to her, you know, this is your fault. That I could be, you know, so many questions in my mind because you never taught me how hard it will be as an adult. And she would
Hmm.
say to me, well, you saw what I was going through. And I'm like, but I was a child. I didn't care. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
that was your business. You know, you struggling. Okay. But yeah, I would tell my 16-year-old self that buckle up and get ready for the ride. Because life is hard. I was always mature and responsible. Went to school,
Hmm.
did the things that I was supposed to do. I was brought up in a religious manner, with the right ethics and morals for myself as a young man. So I didn't have any problem with that. I wasn't a street kid, but I didn't realize how hard, how you have to fight for everything um,
Hmm.
that you want. You want success, you can get it, but you've got to fight for it. You cannot be lazy. You cannot expect things to just fall on your lap. And that's what I would tell my 16-year-old self.
No, it's good advice, and that's probably something you would probably have for younger fathers as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Life is not always peaches and cream. And you don't get things so easy, especially if you're raised as a minority from a poor setting. You're going to have to fight a little bit more than the average person. Don't be bitter. Don't get depressed over it. Don't say, well, what about me? Just go in and do it.
Do it. Nice. I think the other questions I want to ask, and this is kind of two-tiered because they kind of go together, is the one about Biden and Trump. Should Trump go to jail? Should Biden be impeached? Why or why not?
Why did you have to pick that? Okay.
I think yes, and if there's evidence, yes. That's easy for me.
Yeah, I definitely believe that Trump should pay the consequences for what he's done. My opinion, he's screwed up a lot of America. Okay, and he should pay the consequences. However, I don't believe that perhaps necessarily he should sit in jail or he should go to jail. At that point, the government should do what Nixon did and just pardon him, but send him away. Make sure that he can never penetrate the political system again. That he can never get on a mic and tell a lie again. That's how I feel. Should Biden be impeached? Hell no. Okay, he has not done any impeachable offenses. To impeach a president, there's supposed to be high crimes. Okay, Trump was brought up on impeachment twice because of high crimes of what he did. He tried to bribe another country or another president, and he sought after an insurrection and allowed his people to tear down, vandalize, and partly destroy our house, our Capitol building. Those are high crimes, especially coming from a president. Say what you want to say about Biden. Nobody does everything right or 100% correct. And if Republicans want to impeach him just because he trips and falls down the stairs, or because he perhaps made a wrong call and he apologized on it, but now let's just impeach him, is stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah, it's becoming, we have the numbers to impeach him, so we should impeach him. That's really all it is. That's
out
really
of vengeance, out of revenge.
Yep, absolutely.
So
and we
impeachments on under Trump. Let's give an impeachment under Biden.
We knew this. We knew this was coming. We've seen it coming. What was your best concert that you've ever been to?
Mary J. Blige, hands down.
Really? And what was it? Go ahead.
I was going to say equal to Janet Jackson.
Yeah, I remember the Rhythm Nation tour.
Yes. Good. Now, Mary J. Blige was the first concert I ever went to. It was, if you remember, Hot 97's Summer Jams. They would have at Madison Square Garden every year. She was the main highlight of that Summer Jam. The whole concert was excellent, was beautiful. But just her, I was in awe. And this was 20 years ago. And I was just in awe. She did an absolute job, a great job. She sounded exactly the way that she did on the record. And I walked away from that concert just fantasizing about her, of how great she was. And then Janet Jackson was I was going to say a fling of mine. Absolutely not. She was a what's the word when
you had a crush on her?
I had a crush on her.
Yes.
As a teenager, I had a severe crush on Janet Jackson. She did no wrong. She was the prettiest thing in the world. And I used to try to mimic her in her dance routines, Rhythm Nation. I was a Hispanic boy who could not dance. As a young man, and people used to make fun of me. You're Latino, and you don't have any rhythm at all. I had no rhythm until I turned to about 13, 14 years old, and the rhythm came overnight out of nowhere.
Wow!
And Janet Jackson, her songs, you can dance to them. And I loved her routines and her styles, and I would try to mimic them. I loved her, and I still love her today.
That's awesome. And Bruno Mars is who I was thinking of. Concert.
I was going to say that already. Took it out of my head.
Who was dancing?
Bruno Mars.
Yeah, very good. The other one is favorite movies. What are those?
Um, that's a great question. I'm not such a movie goer because I don't
Mm-hmm.
have much time.
Mm-hmm.
I always say to myself, if I've got 2 hours to sit down and watch a movie, that's 2 hours that I could make money.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but growing up, as a child, I watched, of course, more movies. Some of my favorites was The Wizard of Oz. Loved that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Loved, loved that movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was an extreme Superman and Star Wars a fanatic, hands down.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. Well, I think that's my 5 questions.
All right,
That's good, man. Nice
those are good
job.
questions. Those are good questions. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so this was an awesome hour of time spent with you,
Thank you.
Coach Steve. I thank you for sharing your thoughts and your answers and your opinions with us. Again, here at the Esteban Hour, you are welcomed on the show at any time. Continue doing the awesome job that you do at the Meidas Touch Network,
Mm-hmm.
as a coach. In your community, as a father with your daughters, continue to be awesome and be that type of example that a lot of younger men desperately need today.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
again, we hope that you will come back and grace us with your presence and um, whatever's on your mind.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me. Awesome show, man. Good job today.
Got it. You got it.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Okay. As usual, we want you to tune in for our for our weekly sound offs that we do periodically throughout the week. Um, Monday, we will be back at for our weekend review at 11 a.m. Next Friday, we will be the topic on the podcast will be on depression, and we will have a couple of interviews of some young men who have gone through depression and are so happy to announce that they have just hit their anniversary of being depression free. That's next week. So don't forget to share, like, and follow the Esteban Hour. It's always appreciated, and always remember, everyone, not just you, not just me, but everyone, not just blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, Jews, Muslims, Christians, the LGBTQ plus community. Everyone needs love. Okay, everyone, love and mutual respect. Please, if you go away with one thing, anything, go away with that. Everyone needs mutual love and respect. None of us are better than the other. We're all imperfect and we're all sinners. With that said, if you've had a goal that you've accomplished today, don't forget to say it to yourself. This is how you do it.